When you look around today, modern yoga is, well, it's everywhere, isn't it? It's in our fitness routines, our wellness plans, even, fashion.
It really is a global phenomenon.
But have you ever stopped to really think about how it got here? How this ancient tradition transformed into what we see today?
Right, from its roots to, well, the studio down the street.
Exactly. We've done quite a bit of digging, looked at research and analysis, and in this deep dive, we're going right back to the beginnings. We want to explore the key figures who first introduced and really shaped modern yoga, especially in the West.
It's crucial, I think, because what looks like maybe one single thing, yoga, actually grew from some very distinct approaches by these pioneers.
Understanding them helps understand the whole picture.
For sure. Their unique contributions laid the groundwork.
Okay, so let's jump in. Our mission for this first deep dive anyway is to get a handle on those very early days of modern yoga taking root in the West.
The foundations.
Right, and we're focusing on 4 individuals the research really points to as foundational. That's Swami Vivekananda, Paramahansa Yogananda, B.K.S. Iyengar, and Pattabhi Jois.
4 towering figures, really.
And think of this as just the start. We're planning a longer journey exploring how yoga evolved, but this is step 1, understanding the origins.
And what's fascinating is how each one, drawing from India's traditions, connected with the West differently. They addressed different needs, different curiosities.
Their philosophies weren't identical either, were they?
No, while there's common ground, they definitely carved out unique paths for yoga's development over here.
Let's start with Swami Vivekananda, born 1863. The research suggests he's really the person who first properly introduced yoga concepts to a Western audience. That's quite something.
It is a major starting point. His speech in 1893 at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago, that was a landmark moment.
More than just a speech, though.
Oh, definitely. It wasn't just here's yoga. It was this compelling case for yoga's universal appeal. And it landed. It really resonated with Westerners looking for maybe spiritual alternatives.
So not just about the physical poses we often think of first. Sources mention he focused on Raja Yoga. What does that mean exactly?
Right, not primarily physical. Raja Yoga is often called the royal path. It's centered on meditation, mental control, mental discipline. That's the main route to spiritual awakening in Raja Yoga.
So more of a mental science.
Vivekananda presented it almost like that, yeah. A practical method for sort of inner transformation.
And he wrote about it too, didn't he? The book Raja Yoga in 1896 seems important for getting the ideas out there consistently.
Absolutely crucial. That book, which was his take on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, became a key text for early Western students. It provided structure, philosophy, practical guidance. It established yoga as a serious discipline, much more than just, stretches.
And I read he actually held private yoga classes.
Yeah.
In New York, 1895. That's incredibly early.
Yes, quite pioneering. And he introduced this idea of 4 yogas, which was quite comprehensive.
The 4 yogas.
Remind me.
Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion. Karma Yoga, path of selfless action. Jnana Yoga, path of knowledge or wisdom. And Raja Yoga, the path of meditation we just mentioned.
So offering different pathways.
Exactly. It suggested yoga wasn't this single rigid thing, but a flexible approach, different paths for different people. That was likely key for its early acceptance, making it feel accessible.
The sources also mention he knew about Western esoteric thought. Do you think that helped him connect?
It seems likely. By understanding what Western audiences were already interested in, spiritually or intellectually, he could frame yoga in ways that made sense to them. He could build that bridge right from the start.
So his main message was really about using yoga practically for spiritual growth. Focus on the mind, self-realization.
Precisely. He emphasized mental discipline. His view of samadhi, that state of profound union, he presented it as achievable through this disciplined mental practice. Yoga as a way to liberation, essentially. So Vivekananda sets the stage. He establishes yoga as this respected, philosophical, spiritual tradition in the West, not just physical exercise.
That's a great summary. He really elevated how yoga was perceived and opened the door for those who followed.
Okay, next up, Paramahansa Yogananda, born 1893, same year as Vivekananda's speech, interestingly. Research points to him bringing Kriya Yoga to the West, and importantly, being the first Indian yoga master to actually live and teach here long-term.
Yes, that's a big distinction. Yogananda didn't just visit, he moved to the U.S. in 1920 and stayed. He established roots. His founding of the Self-Realization Fellowship, SRF, was key to creating a continuous presence.
And Kriya Yoga, his focus, that blends postures, breathing pranayama, and meditation.
Correct. Kriya Yoga is a specific system combining those elements, and he taught it widely. The research suggests he initiated over 100,000 students into Kriya Yoga during his life, a huge number.
And SRF grew incredibly fast. Over 100 centers by 52, and groups in almost every major U.S. city by 2012. That shows his message really connected.
It really does. It speaks volumes about his ability not just to teach, but to build a lasting organization to support and spread those teachings.
But maybe the thing he's most known for, especially for people just discovering yoga's spiritual side, is his book, Autobiography of a Yogi, 1946. Sold over 4 million copies, you said.
That book, its impact is just immense. It's consistently listed as one of the best spiritual books of the 20th century, still a bestseller. For countless people, it was their first real introduction to the deeper spiritual aspects of yoga and Eastern thought.
It made it feel personal, relatable.
Exactly. It wasn't just philosophy, it was a life story full of wonder.
And he'd already started a school back in India before coming west in 1917, combining yoga and education.
Yes, the Yogoda Satsanga Society of India. It shows that holistic vision he had early on, integrating spiritual and intellectual development.
And legally setting up SRF in the U.S. in 1935 just cemented his commitment to making sure the teachings lasted.
It showed a long-term vision, definitely, preserving and disseminating the work.
Philosophically, he really pushed meditation and self-realization as the ultimate goals. Yoga as a way to experience the divine within yourself.
That was central. He presented yoga as this direct, personal path to connect with your own inner divinity. It beautifully blended the physical discipline with a profound spiritual aim.
And he tried to bridge East and West, mentioning Jesus' teachings, too.
Yes, he made efforts to show common ground between Eastern mysticism and Western spirituality, including a spiritual interpretation of Jesus' teachings. That definitely broadened his appeal.
So being called the father of yoga in the West, it seems fitting. His influence is still massive through SRF and his writings, a truly global community.
Absolutely. He didn't just teach. He built an institution and wrote a book that continues to inspire millions towards meditation and self-discovery.
Okay, let's move to B.K.S. Iyengar. Born 1918, he developed Iyengar Yoga, which research highlights for its focus on precision, alignment, and anatomical awareness.
Iyengar brought this incredible meticulousness to the physical practice, the asana, holding poses, focusing intensely on correct anatomical alignment. That was a hallmark.
And the props. Blocks, belts, blankets, even chairs. It's almost impossible to imagine a yoga class without them now. This was revolutionary, wasn't it? Making yoga accessible.
Totally revolutionary. People think of props now as just standard, but he pioneered their systematic use. Inspired, apparently, by seeing how deities were depicted or using supports in traditional stories. It wasn't just about making poses easier. It was about making the benefits of the poses accessible to everyone, no matter their age or physical condition.
Even people with disabilities, that's huge.
It really democratized the physical practice, a core part of his contribution.
And his book, Light on Yoga, 1966. Another massive seller. Over 3 million copies, translated into loads of languages, called a definitive guide.
It's often called the Bible of modern yoga, and for good reason. The sheer detail, the photos, descriptions of hundreds of postures. It made the asanas understandable for people everywhere. He wrote other key works, too, on pranayama and philosophy.
He also taught internationally, became friends with people like the violinist Yehudi Menuhin, taught Krishnamurti, Aldous Huxley. His first U.S. trip was in '56.
Right. Those connections help introduce his specific, rigorous style to influential circles and wider audiences. And things like the formal teacher training program set up in London by his student Silva Mehta in the 70s that helped ensure quality control as it spread.
The main institute in Pune, the Ramamani Iyengar Memorial Yoga Institute, opened in 1975. That became a global hub. And his family, daughter Gita, son Prashant, granddaughter Abhijata, they've carried it on as major teachers too.
That family lineage has been vital in preserving and evolving the Iyengar method. Their own teachings and writings have really enriched the tradition.
His underlying philosophy seemed to be, yoga is for absolutely everyone, whatever their starting point, and getting the alignment right is crucial, not just physically, but for spiritual growth too, integrating body, mind, spirit.
Yes, exactly. He saw the therapeutic potential in precise alignment. Understanding the body's mechanics wasn't just physical therapy. It was integral to the whole path, physical health supporting mental clarity and spiritual development.
The impact is just undeniable. Thousands of certified teachers globally, Time Magazine's 100 most influential list.
And that quote from anthropologist Joseph Alter saying, Iyengar had arguably the most profound impact on the global spread of yoga, that really says something. Huge numbers of students, even places like China, awards, the Google Doodle, it all points to his massive influence.
Okay, our fourth figure, Pattabhi Jois. Born 1915, the creator of Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga, known for being dynamic, linking breath with movement, a set sequence.
Yes, Ashtanga Vinyasa is a very vigorous style. That synchronization of breath, the vinyasa, with every movement creates this continuous flow. It builds serious strength, flexibility, and stamina.
He taught what he called the Yoga Karunta method, incorporating breath control, pranayama, energy locks, bandhas, gaze points, drishti, postures, asanas, and that flowing movement, vinyasas. And he set up the Ashtanga Yoga Research Institute in Mysore back in 1948.
Right, the Mysore Institute became the heart of Ashtanga practice, drawing students from all over the world who wanted to learn the method directly from him. The Yoga Karunta is believed to be this ancient text that outlined the system he taught.
He also taught at the Sanskrit College, held an honorary professorship. His first trip west was in '74, then a longer stay in California in '75. That really kicked off Ashtanga's international fame, didn't it?
Those visits were absolutely pivotal. They introduced this demanding, flowing style to Westerners who were looking for something perhaps more physically intense than what was widely available then.
He published Yoga Mala first in Canada, his local language, in '58, but the English version came much later. And he was known for having really strict requirements for teacher training, right? Often needing years of practice, trips to Mysore.
Oh, definitely. The emphasis was on dedicated, consistent, daily practice, preferably under his guidance in Mysore for significant periods. Teacher authorization wasn't taken lightly. It required deep immersion in the practice.
His core philosophy seemed to be summed up in his famous phrase, "Practice and all is coming." Consistency is key for spiritual growth.
That's the essence of it. He saw the regular discipline practice itself as the path to self-realization. It was this blend of intense physical discipline and spiritual devotion, with the breath-linked movement being crucial for inner purification.
And Ashtanga's influence is huge on many modern styles, especially anything called vinyasa or flow yoga today. Many prominent teachers trained with him.
Undeniably, his method has deeply shaped the landscape of modern dynamic yoga practices.
It's also important, as the sources note, to acknowledge the controversies surrounding his teaching methods later in his life, specifically reports of inappropriate physical adjustments during classes. His grandson did issue a public apology regarding this.
Yes, that's part of his complex legacy, and it's important context to include.
So, if we try to quickly summarize their distinct roles, Vivekananda provided that initial intellectual and philosophical introduction.
Right. Yogananda focused on disseminating yoga as a spiritual path, building a lasting organization, and reaching many through his writing.
Iyengar then brought this incredible focus on physical precision, alignment, and made it accessible to almost anyone through props.
And Joy developed and popularized a highly dynamic, disciplined, breath-synchronized practice that heavily influenced modern vinyasa styles.
Their philosophies differ too. Vivekananda on mental discipline for spiritual growth.
Yogananda emphasizing self-realization, experiencing the divine within.
Iyengar focused on integrating body, mind, spirit through meticulous alignment.
And Joy on the transformative power of consistent, dedicated, breath-linked practice.
And their impacts spread differently. Vivekananda's initial intellectual wave, Yogananda's large spiritual fellowship, Iyengar's vast network of certified teachers, Yogi's influence on specific styles.
It paints a picture of how diverse the foundations really were.
This first deep dive, it really sheds light on how these four figures, each in their own way, laid the groundwork for what modern yoga became in the West. It wasn't just one person or one idea.
No, it was this collection of distinct contributions, philosophies, and methods that created the rich, varied landscape we have now. Understanding them gives so much more context.
So here's something for you to think about as we wrap up this part of the exploration. When you consider these four distinct approaches, Vivekananda's philosophy, Yogananda's spirituality and outreach, Iyengar's focus on alignment and accessibility, Joy's dynamic practice, which aspect resonates most with your own idea or experience of yoga? Why do you think that is? It's fascinating how those early seeds branched out.
And as you said, this is really just the beginning. There's so much more to explore in how yoga continued to evolve, the different lineages, the controversies, the scientific research.
We'll definitely be diving deeper into all of that in future explorations. For now, thanks for joining us on this look at the foundational figures of modern yoga in the West.